The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched as far as the eye could see. Thousands of beings from 47 different species sat in their designated sections. Some had scales, some had fur, and others looked like walking crystals. Above them all floated the symbol of the Galactic Empire, a circle of stars that represented their united power across the galaxy. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone at the speaker's platform. She was small compared to most beings in the room. Her simple gray suit looked plain, next to the elaborate robes and armor worn by other delegates. But her eyes were steady as she looked at the council leaders seated on the high bench. "We come in peace," Sarah said. Her voice was calm and clear.
"Humanity wishes to join the galactic community as friends and trading partners."
"We have much to offer and much to learn." The reptilian Vaxor leaned forward. He was the supreme military commander of the Empire. His scales gleamed like polished emeralds, and his yellow eyes studied the human with something close to amusement. "How generous of you, little one. Tell us, how long has your species traveled the stars?" 213 years, Sarah replied. A wave of clicking, buzzing, and what might have been laughter rippled through the chamber. The insectoid Clithvara, first strategist of the fleet, tapped her many legs on the floor. "We have species in this council who achieved faster-than-light travel when your ancestors were still living in caves." Sarah's expression did not change. "That may be true, but we are here now and we ask only for respect and peaceful relations." "Respect must be earned," Vaxor said. He brought up a holographic display that showed a star system on the border between human and Empire space. "This system, Epsilon 7, is rich in minerals we require. Your colony ships are heading there. You will turn them back." "That system is unclaimed territory," Sarah said. "Under the Treaty of Stellar Commons, any species may settle unclaimed systems. We studied your laws before we came." Clithvara's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. "The treaty applies to member species. You are not members. You are newcomers who must prove themselves worthy." Sarah took a deep breath. Around her, the vast chamber felt suddenly heavy. "I must ask the council to reconsider. We truly wish for peace, but we will defend what is ours." This time the laughter was louder. Vaxor stood, his impressive height making Sarah look even smaller. "Defend with what? Your primitive ships? Your basic weapons? We have seen your technology, human. You are children playing with toys." "I am authorized to share something with you," Sarah said. She activated her own holographic display. Images appeared in the air. Cities in flames, mushroom clouds rising into the sky, trenches filled with soldiers, ships sinking into dark water. This is Earth's history. For 12,000 years we have recorded our conflicts. We have fought with every weapon we could create: sticks and stones, swords and spears, gunpowder and bullets, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons. We have fought in every environment, on land, at sea, in the air, and now in space. The chamber grew quieter. Some delegates leaned forward to see the images better. "We have fought each other over land, resources, ideas, and gods," Sarah continued. "We have nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times. Every generation of humans has known war. It is in our history, our literature, our art. We have studied it, perfected it, and learned to fear it." She closed the display and looked directly at Vaxor. "We do not want war with the Empire. We want peace. But if you force us to fight, you need to understand what you are waking up. Humanity has spent its entire existence learning one skill better than any other: how to kill efficiently." Vaxor's laugh was a deep rumble. "You think your barbaric past frightens us? We are the Galactic Empire. We have ended rebellions on 1,000 worlds. Your entire species lives on one planet and a few scattered colonies." "That is true," Sarah acknowledged. "You are bigger, older, and more powerful. But size is not everything. Commander Vaxor, First Strategist Clithvara, honored council members, I am giving you an official warning. If you attack humanity, you will regret it. We will show you things you have never seen before. We will fight in ways you cannot imagine, and we will not stop until either we win or we are extinct." The silence that followed was brief. Then Vaxor laughed again and others joined him. Such courage from such a small species. "Very well, human. You have 1 week to withdraw your ships from Epsilon 7. If you do not, we will remove them for you. Consider this the Empire's mercy, giving you time to see reason." Sarah bowed slightly. "I have delivered my message. I hope you will think carefully about your choice." As she walked back down the long aisle toward the exit, she heard the delegates discussing her words. Some found them amusing. Others found them concerning, but most dismissed them as the desperate bluff of a weak species trying to appear strong. Sarah reached the door and looked back one final time. She saw Vaxor speaking with Clithvara, both of them gesturing at holographic battle plans. They were already planning their attack. She whispered to herself too quietly for anyone else to hear. "We tried to warn you. Whatever happens next is your choice, not ours." 1 week later, human colony ships continued toward Epsilon 7. The Empire assembled a subjugation fleet of 300 warships. It was, by all calculations, more than enough force to crush any resistance from the primitive humans. The Empire had made its decision. Soon they would learn if the humans' warning had been genuine or empty words. The countdown to first contact had begun. The Imperial fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Epsilon 7 system. 300 warships arranged themselves in the traditional formation, a display of overwhelming power. Admiral Vaxor watched from the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. "Scan for human vessels," he ordered. His sensor officer, a being with 4 eyes and blue skin, worked the controls. "I am detecting 17 ships, Admiral. They appear to be a mix of colony vessels and small military escorts." Vaxor's tail swished with satisfaction. 17 against 300. "This will be over quickly. Open a channel." The main screen flickered to life. A human face appeared, a man with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a military uniform with strange symbols on it. "This is Captain James Rodriguez of the USS Defiance. I assume you are here to attack us." "I am Supreme Military Commander Vaxor of the Galactic Empire," Vaxor replied. "You were warned to leave this system." "You did not. Now you will face the consequences. Surrender immediately and your lives will be spared." Rodriguez smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "No, I don't think we will." "You were warned too, Commander. You should have believed us." The screen went dark. Vaxor felt a moment of confusion. "What are they doing?" His answer came in the form of music. Every speaker on every Imperial ship suddenly blared with sound. It was loud, aggressive music with heavy drums and screaming guitars. The lyrics were in English, but the translation came through. "We will fight until the end. We will never surrender. We will make you remember our names. Shut that off." Vaxor roared. His communications officer frantically worked to block the signal, but it kept coming through. "All ships begin attack pattern 7, Vaxor ordered. "Target their military vessels first." The Imperial fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charged, ready to fire. Then the human ships did something unexpected. They scattered in all directions, moving at speeds that seemed reckless. 3 of them dove straight toward the Imperial formation. "They are on a collision course," the tactical officer shouted. "Destroy them," Vaxor commanded. Energy beams lanced out from dozens of Imperial ships. 2 of the human vessels exploded in brilliant fireballs, but the third one got through. At the last second, it changed course slightly and passed between 2 Imperial cruisers. As it passed, it released dozens of small objects. "What was that?" Vaxor demanded. The objects exploded. They were simple nuclear weapons, primitive by galactic standards. But they were close, very close, and the radiation and electromagnetic pulse disabled both cruisers. "Impossible," Clithvara hissed from her station. "They sacrificed their own ship for 2 of ours?" More human ships were moving now, but not in any pattern the Imperial forces recognized. One moment they were running away, the next they were attacking from a different angle. They used the asteroid field in the system as cover, hiding behind rocks and emerging to fire before disappearing again. The Imperial ships tried to maintain formation, but the humans were not cooperating with standard battle tactics. They fought like pirates, like raiders, not like a proper military force. "They are launching missiles," the sensor officer reported. "Point defense will handle them," Vaxor said with confidence. But these were not normal missiles. Some were decoys that exploded in brilliant flashes, blinding sensors. Others were kinetic weapons, simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. The Empire's energy shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did little against solid matter moving at a fraction of light speed. One of the kinetic projectiles punched through the shields of a destroyer and tore through its hull like paper. The ship broke apart, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. "Report," Vaxor demanded. "We have lost 7 ships, Admiral. 15 more are damaged. The humans are using unconventional tactics. They are not following any recognized combat doctrine." On the screen, Vaxor watched as a small human fighter craft flew directly at one of his battleships. The battleship's weapons fired, but the human pilot dodged and weaved. At the last second, the fighter released its entire payload of missiles at point-blank range, then veered away. The battleship's armor held, but it was scarred and damaged. More importantly, its crew was rattled. They had never faced an enemy willing to get so close to take such risks. The battle continued for 3 hours. The humans were clearly losing. Their ships were being destroyed one by one. But they kept fighting. They never asked for mercy. They never tried to surrender. Each ship fought until it was destroyed, and they took Imperial vessels with them when they could. When the last human military ship exploded, the Imperial fleet was left floating among debris. Vaxor looked at the casualty reports and could not quite believe what he was seeing. 91 ships destroyed or heavily damaged, Clithvara read from her display. Over 30% of our fleet, against 17 human vessels. They had no chance of winning, Vaxor said slowly. Why did they fight so hard? His communications officer spoke up. Sir, we are receiving a transmission. It appears to be from one of the colony ships. The screen showed Captain Rodriguez again. His face was bruised and bleeding, but his eyes were still fierce. You won this battle, Commander Vaxor. Congratulations, but you need to understand something. Those pilots you just killed? They were volunteers. They knew they would die. Every single one of them chose to be here. That is what you are fighting. Humans who will die before they surrender. You cannot win this war, Vaxor said. We will send more fleets. We will crush you. Maybe, Rodriguez agreed. But how many of your people will die before you do? How many ships will you lose? How much will this war cost you? He leaned closer to the camera. We tried to warn you. You did not believe us. Now you have seen just a small taste of what humanity can do. This is your last chance. Leave us alone, or we will show you what 12,000 years of warfare has taught us. The transmission ended. Vaxor sat in his command chair looking at the damage reports. Around him, the bridge crew was silent. They had won, but it felt nothing like a victory. Send a message to the council, Vaxor said finally. Tell them we need reinforcements. Many reinforcements. As the Imperial fleet began its journey home, leaving the destroyed human ships floating in space, a single question haunted everyone who had fought in that battle. If this was what the humans could do when they were losing, what would they do when they were truly fighting to win? 3 months had passed since the Battle of Epsilon 7. The war that was supposed to last weeks had become something neither side had expected. Vaxor stood in the war room of the Imperial Command Center, looking at holographic displays that showed fleet positions across dozens of star systems. Every display showed problems. Another supply convoy attacked, reported General Thox, a 4-armed warrior from the Krell species. The humans hit them near the Gamma relay. They destroyed 6 cargo vessels before our escorts could respond. How are they finding our convoys? Clithvara demanded. Her mandibles clicked with frustration. Our routes are encrypted. Our movements are random. They are using artificial intelligence, Thox explained. Our analysts believe the humans have created computer programs that can predict our movements by analyzing thousands of data points. It is technology that borders on illegal under galactic law. Vaxor slammed his fist on the table. And do these humans care about galactic law? They care about winning. That is all. The door opened and Ambassador Chen entered. She was escorted by guards but walked with the same calm confidence she had shown at the council. Vaxor had requested this meeting, though it pained him to do so. Thank you for coming, Ambassador, Vaxor said, trying to keep his voice neutral. I came because you asked for negotiations, Chen replied. Are you ready to end this war? I wanted to understand something first, Vaxor said. He brought up images on the holographic display. They showed Imperial soldiers, their bodies covered in strange rashes and sores. This is from our garrison on Telos 4. 200 soldiers became sick within days. Our doctors identified it as a biological weapon, specifically designed to attack Krell physiology. It does not harm other species, only the Krell. Chen looked at the images but showed no emotion. Vaxor changed the image. Now it showed Vaxian soldiers, reptilian like himself, suffering from a different illness. This is from our base on Xerion Prime, a disease that only affects Vaxians. We found similar targeted biological agents on 5 different worlds. He turned to face Chen directly. You are creating custom diseases for each of our species. This is a war crime under every code of conduct in the galaxy. Yes, Chen said simply. It is. The bluntness of her answer shocked the room into silence. You admit it? Clithvara asked. I admit that humanity is fighting a war of survival, Chen said. You attacked us. You tried to take our colony. You have killed thousands of our people. Did you expect us to follow your rules while you try to destroy us? Vaxer felt something he had not experienced in his long military career. He felt like he was losing control. We fight with honor. We follow the laws of war. Your laws, Chen corrected, made by species who never faced extinction. We told you before the war started. We told you what we are. You did not believe us. Thok stepped forward. We have also found evidence of psychological warfare programs. Your ships broadcast strange sounds that cause anxiety in our crews. You send messages designed to make our soldiers afraid. You spread rumors and false information. This is dishonorable. It is effective, Chen replied. That is all that matters to us. Vaxer brought up more images. These showed industrial facilities on human worlds. Our intelligence reports indicate that you have converted 70% of your economic production to military manufacturing. Your people are working around the clock. Children are being trained for military service. Your entire civilization has become a war machine. Yes, Chen agreed. Because you forced us to. Every human understands what is at stake. We will win or we will die. There is no middle ground. You cannot win, Clithvara insisted. We have more ships, more soldiers, more resources. Mathematics does not lie. Chen smiled, and it was a cold expression. 3 months ago, you had 300 ships at Epsilon 7. You lost 91 of them. How many ships have you lost since then? How many convoys? How many bases? Your soldiers are afraid now. They fear every shadow, every strange sound. They know that humans do not follow your rules. Do not fight the way you expect. She walked to the holographic display and pointed at different locations. You have superior numbers, but we have superior motivation. Every human knows what happens if we lose. You are fighting because your leaders told you to. We are fighting because we have no choice. Vaxer was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. What will it take to end this war? Leave us alone, Chen said. Withdraw from our territory. Recognize our sovereignty. Pay reparations for the lives you have taken, and never threaten humanity again. The Council will never agree to those terms, Clithvara said. Then the war continues, Chen replied. She turned to leave, then stopped. Commander Vaxor, let me share something with you. We have weapons we have not used yet. Things we developed during our own wars and swore never to use again. Self-replicating nanomachines. Quantum destabilizers. Artificial plagues that could wipe out entire species. You would not dare, Vaxor said. We would not want to, Chen corrected. But if you push us to the edge of extinction, we will take you with us. That is what you need to understand. Humans are very good at two things, survival and revenge. Give us a reason to choose revenge and you will regret it. After Chen left, the war room was silent. Thox was the first to speak. She is bluffing about those weapons. Is she? Vaxor asked. He looked at the displays showing human industrial output, their casualty reports, their relentless attacks. They have surprised us at every turn. They fight in ways we never imagined. They use weapons we considered primitive and make them deadly. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. He thought about the reports from captured human prisoners. Most had killed themselves rather than face interrogation. The few who survived refused to speak even under torture. Their dedication was absolute. We need to request more resources from the Council, Vaxor said finally. This war is going to cost more than anyone anticipated. But even as he said it, a part of him wondered if any amount of resources would be enough. The humans had shown something the Empire had never faced before. They were not fighting to win territory or resources or glory. They were fighting for survival, and that made them more dangerous than any enemy Vaxor had ever faced. On a human colony world, Captain Rodriguez read reports from the front lines. They were losing slowly but surely. The Empire was too big, too powerful. But they were making the Empire pay for every meter of space, every world, every life. He remembered something from Earth's history, a quote from an ancient war. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall never surrender. That was humanity now. They would fight until they won or until every last human was dead. The Empire had awakened something ancient and terrible, and neither side knew how this war would end. Terra Nova had been humanity's first true colony outside the Sol system. 2 million people lived on the green world, most of them farmers who grew food to feed the expanding human population across the stars. It had parks and schools and everything that made a place feel like home. On the morning of day 147 of the war, Terra Nova died. The Imperial fleet arrived without warning. They did not ask for surrender. They did not give the civilians time to evacuate. Following direct orders from the Galactic Council, they began orbital bombardment. Energy beams and kinetic weapons rained down from the sky. Cities turned to ash. Oceans boiled. The atmosphere caught fire. When the bombardment ended 6 hours later, Terra Nova was a dead world. 2 million human civilians were gone. The Empire broadcast the attack across all channels, a message meant to break human resistance. This is what happens to those who defy the Galactic Empire. Surrender now or more worlds will burn. They expected humanity to collapse. They expected fear and surrender. They were wrong. In the command center on Earth, President Alexandra Morrison watched the footage of Terra Nova's destruction. Her hands gripped the table so hard her knuckles turned white. Around her, military leaders and government officials stood in shocked silence. They killed everyone, someone whispered. Children, elderly, everyone. Morrison looked up. Her eyes were not filled with tears. They were filled with something much colder. Activate Pandora Protocol. Admiral Chen, Sarah's sister, stepped forward. Madam President, if we activate Pandora, there is no going back. The galaxy will never trust us again. The galaxy just murdered 2 million of our people, Morrison replied. Her voice was steady and hard. They wanted to see what happens when you push humanity too far. Let us show them. Across the galaxy, things began to wake up. Sleeper ships that had been launched from Earth centuries ago, long before first contact, suddenly activated. These were generation ships sent out when humanity first achieved slower-than-light travel. They had been drifting through space for 200 years, their crews in suspended animation. Now they woke. And they were not in empty space. They were in the heart of Imperial territory, on the outskirts of major systems near important trade routes. Humanity had been seeding the galaxy with hidden assets long before they ever met the Empire. On the Imperial world of Krath 7, the sabotage began at midnight. Spaceports exploded, power plants went dark, communication arrays were destroyed. By morning, the planet was in chaos. This happened on 17 worlds simultaneously. How is this possible? Vaxor demanded, staring at reports flooding in from across Imperial space. How are they doing this? The sleeper ships, Klithvara realized. She brought up star charts showing the locations of the attacks. They sent colonists into our territory decades ago. They have been hiding in the outer edges of systems, waiting. Waiting for what? Thox asked. For us to give them a reason to wake up, Klithvara answered. They planned for this. They planned for war before they even made first contact with us. But the sleeper ships were just the beginning. Human special forces teams trained in Earth's harsh gravity began operating deep in Imperial territory. Beings who had evolved in lighter gravity could not match human strength or endurance. A human soldier could fight in environments that would crush most species. Reports came in of impossible attacks. A team of 6 humans had destroyed an ammunition depot guarded by 100 Imperial soldiers. Another team had assassinated a high-ranking Imperial governor in his own palace. They moved like ghosts, struck like lightning, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. On the military front, humanity unveiled what they called the Reaper Network. It was an artificial intelligence unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. It coordinated attacks across hundreds of systems simultaneously. It predicted Imperial movements with frightening accuracy. It controlled drones, ships, and automated defenses all at once. The Empire's cyber warfare divisions tried to shut it down, but the Reaper adapted faster than they could react. It learned from every encounter. It evolved. Within days, it had infiltrated 40% of the Imperial logistics network. Supply ships arrived at the wrong locations. Orders were changed. Communications were intercepted. Entire fleets found themselves cut off from command, operating on outdated information. The careful coordination that made the Empire strong began to break down. Vaxor stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion as it prepared for the Battle of Terra Nova. The humans had assembled, a fleet at the ruins of their destroyed colony. Intelligence suggested it was a trap, but Vaxor did not care. The Council had ordered him to crush this fleet and end the human threat once and for all. The Imperial fleet numbered 500 ships, the largest single force ever assembled. Against them, the humans had perhaps 100 vessels. The mathematics seemed clear. But as the Imperial fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, Vaxor saw something that made his blood run cold. The human ships were not arranged in any defensive pattern. They were scattered across the system in small groups, and they were broadcasting a single message on all channels. The face on the screen was President Morrison. "You destroyed Terra Nova. You killed 2 million innocent people, including children. You thought this would break us. You were wrong. This is not a battle. This is your judgment. The human ships attacked, but they were not alone. Automated defense platforms that had been hidden in the asteroid field activated. Mines that had been seeded throughout the system detonated. Railguns fired from the ruins of Terra Nova itself. Weapons that had been buried and waiting for this moment. The battle was chaos. The Reaper network coordinated every human asset with perfect precision. Imperial ships found their shields failing, their weapons malfunctioning, their communications jammed. The humans had hacked them, infected them with viruses before the battle even began. Vaxor watched his fleet being torn apart. Ships exploded all around him. The careful formations broke down into individual fights, and in those close-quarters battles, human aggression and willingness to die proved overwhelming. "All ships, retreat," Vaxor ordered. "Fall back to the jump point." But many ships never received the order. Their communications were down. They fought alone and died alone. When the Eternal Dominion finally escaped into faster-than-light travel, Vaxor looked at the casualty reports. 347 ships lost. 153 ships had escaped, many heavily damaged. The humans had lost 72 ships. In the quiet of his quarters, Vaxor finally understood. The humans had not been fighting to win territory or gain resources. They had been buying time. Time to wake their sleeper ships. Time to deploy the Reaper network. Time to turn the entire galaxy into their battlefield. Ambassador Chen had been right. They should have listened to her warning. Now it was too late. The war had become something no one could control, and Vaxor no longer believed the Empire could win. Across human space, in every colony and every ship, people mourned Terra Nova. But they did not despair. They did what humans had always done throughout history. They turned their grief into determination, their pain into strength. The Empire had wanted to break humanity. Instead, they had given them a cause worth dying for: revenge. The neutral station Arbitration Prime floated in unclaimed space far from any star. It had been built centuries ago as a place where different species could meet without fear or favor. Today, it would host the most important negotiation in galactic history. Ambassador Sarah Chen arrived with a small delegation. She walked through corridors filled with representatives from dozens of species, all watching the humans with new eyes: fear, respect, curiosity. She saw all of these emotions. The galaxy had learned what humanity was capable of, and it would never forget. The negotiation chamber was a vast circular room with seats arranged in tiers. At the center sat the Galactic Council members, including Vaxor and Clithvara. Both looked tired. The war had aged them. 1 year had passed since the first battle at Epsilon 7. The galaxy had been transformed. The Empire had not fallen, but it had been humbled. 17 member species were demanding the Council's resignation. Internal rebellions had broken out on a dozen worlds. The economy was in collapse, and still, the humans kept fighting. "The Galactic Council calls this session to order," announced Speaker Veldon, an elderly being with silver skin. "We are here to discuss terms of peace with humanity," Chen stood. "Humanity is willing to discuss peace, but we will not accept anything less than complete independence and recognition of our sovereignty." "That is already agreed," Veldon said. "What else do you demand?" "Reparations," Chen stated. "You destroyed Terra Nova. 2 million civilians died. We want compensation for every life lost, every ship destroyed, every colony damaged." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Vaxor stood slowly. "The amount you are requesting would bankrupt half the Empire." "Then you should have thought about that before you started this war," Chen replied without sympathy. Clithvara's mandibles clicked angrily. "You cannot bankrupt the galaxy. It would cause suffering across hundreds of worlds. Our people are suffering right now," Chen said. Her voice grew harder. 3 billion humans are dead. 3 billion. Earth's orbit is filled with so much debris from destroyed ships that it will take centuries to clear. We have entire colonies that are nothing but graves. Do not talk to me about suffering when you are the ones who caused all of this. The chamber fell silent. The number was staggering. No one had realized how many humans had died. We also demand that those responsible for Terra Nova's destruction face justice, Chen continued. Under human law, they will be tried for war crimes and if found guilty, executed. Impossible, Veldon said. We cannot hand over council members to face execution. Then we have nothing more to discuss, Chen said. She turned to leave. Wait, Vaxor called out. Chen stopped but did not turn around. What will it take for you to accept peace? Chen finally turned. Everything I just stated. Plus one more thing. Humanity gets a permanent seat on the Galactic Council with full veto power over military actions. The chamber erupted in protests. Multiple species shouted objections. The very idea of giving humans such power was unthinkable. Veldon called for order. When the noise died down, he said, "That is unprecedented. No species has ever been given such authority so quickly. No species has ever fought you to a standstill," Chen countered. "You wanted to see if we were strong enough to earn respect? Well, here is your answer. We destroyed or damaged over 1,000 of your ships. We sabotaged 17 worlds. We created artificial intelligence that your best minds cannot defeat. We fought you across the entire galaxy and we are still fighting. If you want this war to end, you will meet our terms." Thok stood. "And if we refuse? If we choose to keep fighting?" Chen met his eyes. "Then we finish what you started. We have weapons we have not used yet. The Reaper network is still learning, still growing. Our industrial capacity is still increasing. Every day this war continues, we get stronger and you get weaker." She paused. "But more importantly, you need to ask yourself, do you want humanity inside the council where you can negotiate with us, or outside where we have no reason to follow your rules at all?" The truth of her words hung in the air. The Empire had created something it could not control. The only question now was whether they would accept humanity as an equal, or continue fighting until both sides were destroyed. The negotiations lasted 3 days. In the end, humanity got most of what it demanded. The Empire agreed to reparations paid over 50 years. 3 council members who had ordered Terra Nova's destruction were handed over to human custody. They would be tried in human courts, and humanity received a permanent seat on the Galactic Council with veto power over any declaration of war. On the final day, Chen stood before the full council to deliver humanity's acceptance speech. She looked at the assembled representatives, beings from 47 different species, and began to speak. "We told you before this war started what humanity was. We warned you that we had spent 12,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. We told you that every species we had ever met, we had fought. Every challenge we faced, we weaponized. You did not believe us. You thought we were primitive, weak, scared." She walked slowly across the speaking floor. "You were right that we were scared, but you did not understand what frightens us. We are not afraid of death. Every human knows they will die someday. We are afraid of being forgotten. We are afraid of failing to protect what we love. When you threatened our colonies, our families, our future, you gave us something to fight for that was stronger than any fear of death." Chen stopped and looked directly at Vaxor. "You learned what happens when you push humanity to the edge. We showed you things you never imagined. We fought with everything we had. And yes, we did terrible things. We created weapons of horror. We killed without mercy. We broke rules that we ourselves had made." Her expression grew sad. 3 billion humans died in this war. 3 billion fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, friends and lovers. They died because you forced us to fight. But they also died because we chose to fight rather than surrender. That choice, that willingness to pay any price for freedom is what makes us human. She turned to address the entire chamber. "Peace is not the absence of the capacity for violence. Peace is the choice not to use it. Every species in this chamber has weapons. Every species could wage war. But you choose cooperation instead. That is what makes civilization possible." Chen's voice grew stronger. "Humanity made our choice before this war started. We chose peace. We came to you with open hands and honest intentions. You chose violence. You chose war. Everything that happened after that, every death and every destroyed world came from your choice, not ours." She returned to her place at the newly installed human seat on the council floor. "We are here now. We will work with you to build a better galaxy, but never forget the lesson you learned. Never threaten humanity again, because next time we will not show mercy. Next time we will not stop until every last one of you is dust." The chamber was completely silent. Chen sat down and looked around at the council members. "Welcome to the new galactic order. We are all going to learn to live together now, because none of us can afford another war like this one." In the days that followed, the treaty was signed. Human ships began returning home. The Reaper network was gradually deactivated, though copies were kept hidden just in case. The galaxy began the long process of healing, but things would never be the same. Humanity had proven itself in the most brutal way possible. They were no longer the newcomers, the primitives, the species to be dismissed. They were a power, perhaps the most dangerous power in the galaxy. On Earth, President Morrison stood at the memorial for Terra Nova. 2 million names were carved into black stone, a reminder of the price of peace. She placed flowers at the base of the memorial and whispered, "We did not forget you. We made them pay, and we made sure this will never happen again." Above her, ships moved through Earth's orbit, slowly clearing the debris of war. It would take generations to fully recover. The scars would last even longer, but humanity had survived. They had faced extinction and refused to surrender. They had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge, and the galaxy would never make that mistake again. As Chen walked through the halls of Arbitration Prime after the final session, a young being approached her. It was a student barely old enough to understand what had happened. "Ambassador Chen," the young one asked, "was the war worth it?" Chen looked at the innocent face and felt the weight of 3 billion deaths pressing on her shoulders. "No," she said honestly. "War is never worth it. But sometimes it is necessary. We tried every other option first. Remember that. We tried peace." She walked away, leaving the young one to ponder her words. The future would judge whether humanity's actions had been right or wrong. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never forget the day they met humanity in battle, and they would never ignore a human warning again. John Mercer stared at his computer screen, the soft blue glow illuminating his tired face. The small office at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Facility was quiet at 3 a.m. Everyone else had gone home hours ago, but John couldn't leave. The anomalies in the signal data bothered him too much. For the past 3 weeks, he had noticed unusual patterns in the background noise they routinely collected from space. Tiny fluctuations that didn't match any known cosmic phenomenon. His supervisor, Dan Miller, had brushed off his concerns twice now. "It's just equipment degradation, Mercer," Dan had said yesterday. "The satellite arrays are due for maintenance next month anyway." But John knew better. He had worked with these systems for 7 years, and this wasn't normal degradation. The patterns were too regular, too deliberate. He took a sip of cold coffee and grimaced. His phone buzzed on the desk, and he picked it up to see a text from Samantha Wright. "Still at work? I'm in town for the conference. Breakfast tomorrow?" John smiled. He and Samantha had been friends since college. While he had taken a job with NASA's Communications Division, she had pursued astrobiology, becoming one of the leading researchers in the field. Her theories about non-carbon-based life forms had earned her both praise and criticism in scientific circles. "You bet," John typed back. "I have something weird to show you." The next morning, John sat across from Samantha at a small cafe near the research center. Her curly red hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her green eyes sparkled with curiosity as he explained what he had found. "Look at this," John said, sliding his tablet across the table. "These signal patterns keep showing up at different monitoring stations around the world. They're faint, but they're everywhere." Samantha studied the data, her expression growing serious. "This isn't random noise," she said quietly. "And it's not coming from deep space either, is it?" John shook his head. "No. Whatever this is, it's happening right here, on Earth." "Have you told anyone else?" "I tried. My boss thinks it's nothing. But Sam, what if—" He leaned closer. "What if we're not alone?" Samantha didn't laugh like most people would have. Instead, she nodded slowly. "My research team found something last month. Microscopic structures in the upper atmosphere that shouldn't be there. We thought they were a new type of pollution particle, but they don't break down like anything we've seen before." Over the next few days, John and Samantha combined their findings. The signal patterns lined up perfectly with the locations where Samantha's team had found the strange particles. Something was happening globally, something that existed just beyond human perception. They worked from John's apartment, setting up monitors and analysis tools. On the 5th night, they had their breakthrough. "Look at this frequency," Samantha said, pointing to a pattern on the screen. "It's modulating in response to human activity. It gets stronger when there are more people around." John felt a chill run down his spine. "They're watching us." "They who?" Samantha asked, though her voice suggested she already suspected the answer. "Non-human intelligence," John said. "The exact kind you've been theorizing about." The summer heat pressed against the windows as they worked through the night, tracking the invisible signals. By morning, they had mapped out what appeared to be observation points in major cities across the globe. The pattern was undeniable. Earth was under surveillance. John tried to report their findings to his superiors at NASA. He scheduled a meeting with the director, Dr. Karen Bell. But when he arrived, something felt off. "I've reviewed your data." "John," Dr. Bell said, her voice oddly flat. "There's nothing of concern here. You're overworked and your imagination is getting the better of you." "But the patterns are explained by satellite interference," she cut him off. "I'm putting you on mandatory leave for 2 weeks. Get some rest." As John left the building, he noticed a subtle shimmer in the air near Dr. Bell's office window. A trick of the light, perhaps, or something else entirely. That night, he called Samantha. "They shut me down completely. Something's wrong with Dr. Bell. She didn't even sound like herself." "The same thing happened at my lab," Samantha replied, her voice hushed. "My research partner, Peter, suddenly insisted we abandon our atmospheric study. He deleted our samples yesterday." "They're already here," John whispered. "And they've got to, some of us." Over the next week, John and Samantha carefully reached out to others who might help. They found Alan Parker, a network security expert who had noticed strange data breaches at government facilities. They contacted Kimberly Foster, a neurologist, who had been treating patients with unusual changes in brain activity. They met in an old cabin owned by Alan's family, far from the city and electronic surveillance. There, they pieced together what they knew. "They're called the Vecthar," Kimberly said, showing them brain scans of affected patients. "At least that's the closest I can come to pronouncing it. One of my patients spoke the name during a seizure. Look at these altered neural pathways. It's like something rewired their thinking." "Mind control?" John asked. "More like subtle influence," Kimberly explained. "They can't completely control humans, but they can nudge decisions and perceptions in certain directions." Alan pulled up digital maps on his secure laptop. Based on the signal patterns John found, they've established observation posts in 52 countries. They're targeting government officials, military leaders, and top scientists first. "But why?" Samantha asked. "If they have this technology, why not just take over openly?" "Assessment," John said suddenly, remembering Dr. Bell's strange words during their meeting. "She said something odd as I was leaving. Your species assessment is proceeding as scheduled." I thought she was talking about my job evaluation. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We need to know more," Samantha finally said. "What they want, what they're planning. And we need to stay hidden," Alan added. "If they realize we know about them, we'll be the first ones they target." As night fell, they made plans to build a resistance network. John would use his NASA access to track Vecthar communications. Alan would develop secure ways for them to communicate. Kimberly would find ways to identify compromised individuals, and Samantha would continue her research into the aliens' biology, looking for weaknesses. They called themselves the Whisper, a subtle force against the silent invasion. As John looked at their small group, he felt a mix of fear and determination. Humanity didn't yet know it was facing its greatest challenge. The world carried on, oblivious to the betrayal happening in plain sight. Outside the cabin, stars twinkled in the night sky. Among them, watching and waiting, were the Vecthar. Earth had been judged worthy of their attention, but perhaps not their mercy. The silent invasion had begun. The question was, could a whisper grow loud enough to save a planet that didn't know it needed saving? 6 months passed since John Mercer and Samantha Wright discovered the Vecthar presence on Earth. Winter had come and gone, and now spring brought new life to the forests surrounding their hidden base. What had started as a small group of 4 had grown into a network of 27 trusted individuals. Their new headquarters was an abandoned mining facility in the mountains, retrofitted with equipment stolen from compromised government sites. Alan's security measures kept them hidden from both human authorities and alien detection. John stood at the wall of monitors tracking signal patterns across a global map. Red dots showed confirmed Vecthar observation posts. Yellow indicated suspected human collaborators. The pattern was clear and disturbing. The aliens had infiltrated key positions in major governments worldwide. "They've added another transmission hub near Geneva," John said as Eric Daniels entered the room. Eric, a former Special Forces operator with a thick beard and watchful eyes, had joined the Resistance 3 months ago after noticing strange behavior among his former military colleagues. His combat experience and strategic mind made him invaluable as their security leader. "That makes 17 hubs globally," Eric said, studying the map. "They're building their network faster now." Samantha entered from the lab section, her hair tied back, dark circles under her eyes from too many late nights. "That's because they're moving to the next phase. They've completed their initial assessment of humanity." "And?" John asked, already dreading the answer. "It's not good," Samantha said. Dr. Laura Phillips just arrived with new information. They gathered in the main meeting area where Laura, a brilliant quantum physicist with short gray hair and steady hands, was setting up her equipment. The Resistance had rescued her from a Vecthar facility 3 weeks ago, where she had been unknowingly working on alien technology disguised as a breakthrough energy project. "I managed to decrypt part of their communication network," Laura explained, displaying complex diagrams on the screen. "The Vecthar are part of something called the Galactic Assembly, a coalition of spacefaring species. Earth is being evaluated for potential contact or containment." "Containment?" Eric asked. "Quarantine or elimination," Laura said grimly. "The Vecthar assessment concludes that humans are too unpredictable and individualistic to join their galactic community. They've identified us as a potential threat." John felt a cold weight in his stomach. "They're going to attack us?" "There's internal disagreement among them," Laura continued. "The diplomatic faction argues for isolation, a technology that would effectively seal our solar system from the rest of the galaxy. The military faction pushes for what they call preemptive neutralization. They want to wipe us out before we can reach the stars," Samantha translated. The room fell silent. As the reality sank in, humanity faced extinction without ever knowing why. "How much time do we have?" Eric finally asked. "The Galactic Assembly representatives will arrive within a year to make their final decision," Laura said. "Once they do, we may have days, maybe hours before they implement their choice." John paced the room, thinking. "We need to know more about these assembly representatives. If the Vecthar are just one species among many, maybe others would be more sympathetic to humans." "We'll need access to their central communication system," Laura said. "I've identified a facility in the mountains of Peru that serves as their primary Earth hub. But infiltrating it would be nearly impossible." "We have to try," Eric said. "If we can't fight them directly, we need to find another angle." That night, as most of the Resistance slept, John found Samantha alone in the lab. She was studying samples of the Vecthar technology they had managed to salvage. "Any weaknesses?" he asked. Samantha looked up, pushing hair from her face. "Yes, actually. Despite their advanced technology, the Vecthar have a strange blind spot. They've evolved beyond strong emotion. They see it as primitive, inefficient." "How does that help us?" "They can't predict what humans will do for love, for friendship, for loyalty," Samantha explained. "Their models of human behavior break down when emotions are involved. That's why they're so afraid of us. We're unpredictable to them." John sat beside her. Over the months of working together, hiding together, fighting together. Something had grown between them, unspoken but real. "We should use that against them," he said. The next morning they presented a plan to the group. They would send a small team to gather intelligence from a minor Vecthar outpost near their location. It wasn't the main facility in Peru, but it might provide valuable information about the aliens' weaknesses and timeline. Eric would lead the mission with 2 other former military members. The plan was simple: get in, download their data, and get out without being detected. 3 days later, the mission went wrong. The team successfully entered the facility, but silent alarms they hadn't detected alerted the Vecthar. When Eric and 1 team member returned, they brought back critical intelligence but terrible news. "They took Samantha," Eric said, his face grim, blood seeping through a makeshift bandage on his arm. "She was downloading the last data packet when they surrounded us. She told us to go, said the mission was more important than any one person." John felt his world collapse. "We have to get her back." "It's too dangerous," Eric argued. "They'll be expecting a rescue attempt." "Exactly," Laura interrupted, her eyes lighting up with sudden understanding. "That's our advantage. The Vecthar don't understand human emotion. They won't expect us to risk everything for one person. It's not logical." John looked at the data they had recovered. Among the files was information about a Vecthar transport schedule. "There's a ship moving between facilities tomorrow night. If they're taking Samantha for interrogation, she'll be on it." "You want to intercept it?" Eric asked. "That's suicide." "No," John said, a plan forming in his mind. "It's unpredictable. It's human. And it might just work." They spent the day preparing. Laura identified a weakness in the Vecthar transport's shield system. Eric developed tactical plans for a quick strike. Other team members gathered weapons and equipment. As night fell, John looked at the small force ready to risk everything to save Samantha. The Vecthar had assessed humanity as dangerous because of their unpredictability. Maybe it was time to prove them right. "The Vecthar think they understand us," John told the team as they prepared to move out. "They've studied our science, our governments, our militaries. But they don't understand what drives us, not really. They don't understand that humans will fight hardest for the people they care about." Eric checked his weapon one last time. "Let's show them why they should fear us." Under the cover of darkness, they moved toward the intercept point, a remote stretch of road where the Vecthar transport would pass. Their plan wasn't just to rescue Samantha. It was to send a message to the silent invaders. Humanity wouldn't be evaluated and discarded without a fight. The resistance was small but growing stronger. And now they had the most powerful motivation of all. They were fighting for one of their own. As the distant lights of the transport appeared on the horizon, John took a deep breath. The Vecthar were about to learn that human emotion wasn't a weakness. It was their greatest strength. The night air was cold as John and the rescue team took their positions along the mountain road. Eric led 3 fighters to the north side while John and 2 others waited behind large rocks to the south. The plan was simple but dangerous: disable the Vecthar transport and extract Samantha before reinforcements arrived. John checked his watch. The transport was due in 5 minutes. His heart pounded in his chest as he thought about Samantha. Was she hurt? Had the aliens started their interrogation? He pushed the thoughts away and focused on the mission. A faint hum grew louder as the transport approached. It looked like an ordinary black van, but the team knew better. Their scanners detected the energy shield surrounding it, and the non-human life forms inside. "Ready," Eric's voice came through the radio. "On my mark." The transport rounded the curve. Eric gave the signal, and Laura activated the device they had built using the recovered Vecthar technology. A pulse of energy shot out, hitting the SAW. Transport's shield. The vehicle sputtered and came to a stop. "Now!" Eric shouted. The team moved in quickly. 2 Vecthar guards emerged from the front of the transport. In their human disguises, they looked almost normal, except for their too perfect movements and the strange shimmer around them when they moved too quickly. Eric and his team engaged them while John ran to the back of the transport. John broke, opened the lock with Laura's device and pulled the door open. Inside, Samantha lay on a stretcher, conscious but weak. A single Vecthar stood over her, holding a strange device. Without hesitation, John fired the modified stun gun Laura had designed. The Vecthar fell to the floor, its human disguise flickering to reveal a tall gray form with multiple limbs before stabilizing again. "John?" Samantha's voice was barely a whisper. "I've got you," he said, lifting her from the stretcher. "Can you walk?" She nodded weakly. "They drugged me, but it's wearing off. I knew you'd come." "We have to hurry," John said. "Their backup will be here soon." Outside, Eric and the team had subdued the guards. They quickly retreated to their vehicles, hidden in the trees nearby. As they drove away, John held Samantha close in the back seat. "You took a big risk," she said. "Worth it," he replied simply. "Did they hurt you?" "No," Samantha said. "They were studying me. They seemed confused by how humans work. I think I learned more about them than they learned about me." Back at the base, Laura examined Samantha while the others reviewed the data stolen from the transport. The information was more valuable than they had hoped. Detailed plans for the Vecthar's presentation to the Galactic Assembly and specifications for their communication technology. 2 days later, when Samantha had recovered enough, the leadership team gathered to discuss their next steps. "The Vecthar will present their assessment to the Assembly in 4 months, Samantha explained. "They've moved up the timeline after our raid." "That doesn't give us much time," Eric said. "And we still don't have a way to fight them directly." Laura had been unusually quiet, studying the stolen data on her tablet. Now she looked up. "I don't think we need to fight them directly. I have an idea." She walked to the main screen and displayed a complex diagram of the Vecthar's quantum communication network. The Vecthar use this network to communicate with their homeworld and the Galactic Assembly, she explained. "It's faster than light and nearly impossible to detect unless you know what to look for. But," she highlighted a section of the diagram, "they have emergency broadcast frequencies that they monitor but rarely use. If we could access those, we could send a message to the Assembly ourselves," John said, catching on quickly. "Tell them our side of the story." "Exactly," Laura nodded. "Project Whisper. Instead of trying to fight the Vecthar, we speak directly to the other species. In the Assembly, can we build something that could access their network?" Eric asked. "With this data, yes," Laura said, "but we'd need to place the device at one of their main communication hubs, the facility in Peru that I mentioned before." The plan took shape over the following weeks. While Laura and her team worked on the broadcast technology, John led efforts to create the message they would send. They needed to show the true nature of humanity, not just as the Vecthar had portrayed them. A new member joined their efforts. Olivia Bennett, a former diplomat who had noticed strange behavior among her colleagues at the United Nations. Her experience in international communication proved invaluable as they crafted their message to alien species they had never seen. "We need to show them everything," Olivia said during a planning session. "Our art, our music, our literature, our scientific achievements, but also our capacity for compassion, for growth, for cooperation. And evidence of the Vecthar's deception," Samantha added. "Proof that they manipulated their assessment." While they worked, another team member, Alex Rivera, developed programs to identify compromised individuals, humans whose minds had been influenced by Vecthar technology. His algorithm helped them avoid detection as their network expanded across the globe. The resistance now included over 100 members in 12 countries. They operated in small cells, gathering information and preparing for the moment when they would need to act together. As the broadcast device neared completion, Vecthar activity increased. They seemed to sense that something was happening, though they hadn't yet located the Resistance's main base. "We're running out of time," Eric reported one evening, returning from a reconnaissance mission. "They've doubled security at all their major facilities. The Peru site is now their most heavily guarded location on Earth." John and Samantha stood at the edge of the compound that night, looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, the fate of humanity was being decided by beings who had never truly understood the species they were judging. "Do you think it will work?" Samantha asked quietly. It has to, John replied. We can't fight them with weapons. Our only hope is to make ourselves heard. Samantha took his hand. Over the months of working together, their feelings had grown stronger, though neither had found the right moment to speak of them openly. Now, with the future so uncertain, words seemed less important than the simple comfort of being close. If anyone can make the assembly listen, it's us, she said. The Vecthar don't understand what makes humans special. They see our emotions as a weakness, but it's our strength. Our capacity to care, to hope, to dream, that's what they're afraid of. John nodded. In 3 days, they would launch their most dangerous mission yet, infiltrating the Peru facility to plant the broadcast device. Some of them might not return, but if Project Whisper succeeded, humanity would have a voice in the decision that would determine their future. As they turned to go back inside, a shooting star streaked across the sky. An old human superstition suggested making a wish. John did, hoping that somewhere among the stars someone would be willing to listen to Earth's whisper. Dawn broke over the mountains as 3 black vehicles drove along the narrow roads toward the Peru facility. John sat in the second vehicle with Samantha and Laura. Eric led the team in the first vehicle, while Alex and 4 other resistance members followed in the third. Final equipment check. Eric's voice came through their secure radios. John opened the metal case between his feet. Inside was the broadcast device Laura had built. It looked simple, a silver box with strange symbols etched into its surface, and a small control panel. But it represented humanity's best hope. Device is secure, John confirmed. All surveillance jammers are active, Alex reported from the third vehicle. Satellite imaging shows the facility security rotation begins in 30 minutes. That's our window. The plan was precise. Eric's team would create a diversion at the north entrance. Meanwhile, John, Samantha, and Laura would enter through a maintenance tunnel they had identified from stolen schematics. Alex's team would remain outside, coordinating with resistance cells worldwide who would launch simultaneous small actions to confuse the Vecthar global network. They parked the vehicles in a hidden ravine and continued on foot. The facility appeared ordinary, a research complex surrounded by high fences with regular security patrols, but their scanners detected the energy signatures of advanced technology hidden beneath its surface. Everyone knows their role, Eric said as they gathered one last time. If anything goes wrong, the primary objective is to protect the broadcast device. Everything else is secondary. He didn't need to say what they all knew. Some of them might not make it back. 15 minutes to diversion. Eric checked his watch. Move out. John, Samantha, and Laura made their way to the maintenance tunnel entrance hidden behind dense vegetation. The access panel responded to the hacking tool Alex had programmed, sliding open with a soft hiss. Good luck, Laura whispered to the others as they entered the dark passage. The tunnel was narrow and smelled of damp earth. They moved silently, guided by the soft glow of their modified flashlights that were invisible to Vecthar sensors. The main communication chamber should be 2 levels down, Samantha said, consulting the map on her tablet. They reached a junction where the tunnel split into 3 passages. This way, Laura pointed to the right path. Suddenly, alarms blared through the facility. That's too early for Eric's diversion, John said, concerned. Laura checked her tablet. They're not reacting to us. Something else triggered their security. Alex, what's happening? Samantha spoke into her radio. We've got unexpected company. Alex's voice came through with static. A ship just entered Earth's atmosphere. It's not Vecthar design. I think it's the assembly representatives. They're early. John felt his heart sink. The timeline's changed. We need to move faster. They hurried through the tunnel, no longer worried about stealth. If the assembly representatives had arrived, they might only have hours before a decision was made about Earth's fate. They reached a heavy metal door at the end of the tunnel. Beyond it lay the facility's central chamber, where the Vecthar maintained their quantum communication link to the stars. This is it, Laura said, placing a small device on the door's security panel. Once we're inside, I'll need 2 minutes to connect our broadcast to their network. The door slid open. They rushed inside, then froze. The chamber was vast, filled with pulsing columns of light and strange crystalline structures. In the center stood a Vecthar, but unlike the others they had encountered, this one wore no human disguise. It turned. As they entered, its tall, sleek form radiating a subtle glow. Multiple eyes blinked on its angular face. "I have been expecting you," it spoke, its voice resonating strangely in the chamber. John raised his weapon, but the alien made no move to attack or sound an alarm. "You are the humans who resist," it continued. "I am Nex Lari, science observer. I have been curious about your kind." Samantha stepped forward cautiously. "You speak our language." "I have studied humans extensively," Nexalari replied. "The others believe they understand your species. I believe they do not." Laura clutched the broadcast device tightly. "We need to use your communication network." The alien's eyes blinked in a pattern they couldn't interpret. "To speak to the assembly." "Yes, I know. They are here now, in orbit. The evaluation concludes today." "Then help us," John said. "Your people have lied about humanity." "Not lied," Nexlari corrected. "Observed incompletely. They see your wars, your conflicts, your destructive tendencies. They do not see—" The alien paused, seeming to search for words. "They do not see your music, your art, your capacity to change. You've been watching us differently than the others," Samantha realized. "I have listened to your music, read your poetry, observed your care for each other and for other species," Nexalari confirmed. "The Vecthar lost these things long ago in our pursuit of perfect logic." From somewhere above, a deep rumble shook the facility. Eric's diversion. John guessed. "No," Nexlari said. "The military faction has detected the assembly ship. They launch countermeasures to prevent any communication. They fear you might influence the assembly's decision." The alien moved to a control panel. "You have little time. I will help you. Modify your device to reach the assembly directly." Laura hesitated only briefly before joining the alien at the panel. Together, they worked quickly to connect the broadcast device to the quantum network. "Why are you helping us?" Samantha asked. "Nexlari, because in studying humanity I have learned something my people forgot," the alien replied. "Diversity strengthens, not weakens. The galaxy needs your perspective." Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. "John," Eric's voice came through the radio filled with static. "We've got Vecthar security forces converging on your position. Multiple teams." "How long?" John asked. "Minutes, maybe less," Eric replied. "We'll hold them as long as we can." Laura looked up from the panel. "The device is connected, but someone needs to stay here to maintain the link and guide the broadcast through their security protocols." I do it," Laura said before anyone could respond. "I'm the only one who fully understands how the device works." "No," John began to argue, but Laura cut him off. "There's no time to debate this. You and Samantha need to get to the secondary control room on the east side. From there, you can monitor the broadcast and make sure the assembly receives all of our message." The sound of weapons fire echoed through the corridors outside. "She's right," Nexalari said. "I will guide you to the secondary control room. We must hurry." John looked at Laura, understanding what her choice meant. "The world will know what you did here today." Laura smiled sadly. "Just make sure there's still a world to know it." She turned to the controls. "Now go. Make humanity's voice heard." As John and Samantha followed Nexalari through a hidden passage, the sounds of battle grew louder behind them. John thought about all the people who had risked everything for this moment, for the chance to send humanity's whisper across the stars. Now it was up to them to make sure that whisper was heard. John and Samantha raced through narrow corridors after Nexlari. The alien moved with fluid grace despite the facility shaking from distant explosions. They reached a small chamber filled with glowing screens and crystalline controls. "This is the secondary control room," Nexalari said. "From here we can monitor the broadcast and ensure it reaches the assembly ship." Samantha activated the main screen while John kept watch at the door. Laura, can you hear us? She called into her communicator. I'm here. Laura's voice came through, strained but determined. The broadcast is initializing. Vecthar security forces are trying to break through the main chamber door, but I've sealed it temporarily. What's the status of the broadcast? John asked. Beginning now, Laura replied. The Whisper project is live. On the screen before them, data began to flow. The message they had carefully created over the past months was streaming into space. It contained everything they wanted the assembly to know about humanity: images of Earth's natural beauty, recordings of music from cultures around the world, art and literature translated into mathematical patterns the aliens might understand. It showed human accomplishments in science, medicine, and cooperation. But most importantly, it included evidence of the Vecthar's manipulation and selective assessment. It's working, Samantha said, watching the data stream. The broadcast is breaking through their security protocols. Next, Lowry monitored another screen. The assembly ship is receiving the transmission. They have not blocked it yet. Suddenly, Laura's voice came through again, more urgent. They're breaking through the door. I don't have much time. I'm going to overload the main transmitter to boost the signal strength. Laura, that could be dangerous, John warned. It's the only way to ensure the complete message gets through, she replied. Keep monitoring from your end. Make sure they hear everything. The data stream surged, becoming stronger and more stable. On another screen, they could see the actual content of their message as it flowed outward. Human faces smiling, crying, laughing, scenes of cooperation during disasters, scientific breakthroughs shared freely across nations, and finally, the evidence of the Vecthar's deception. A massive explosion shook the facility. Laura, John called into the communicator. There was no response. The main chamber has been breached, Nexlari reported, reading the facility's internal sensors. But the broadcast continues. She succeeded. John and Samantha shared a moment of grief for their friend, then focused on the mission. Laura's sacrifice couldn't be in vain. How much longer until the full message is transmitted? Samantha asked. 3 minutes, Nexlari replied. But Vecthar security forces are converging on this location as well. Eric, what's your status? John called through his communicator. Static crackled, then Eric's voice came through, punctuated by the sounds of fighting. We're holding them off, but not for much longer. Did Laura get the broadcast through? It's transmitting now, John confirmed. Just need a few more minutes. You'll have them, Eric promised. The connection went silent. John checked his weapon. We need to barricade the door by as much time as possible. They worked quickly, pushing storage containers against the entrance. Outside, they could hear the approaching sounds of Vecthar security forces. 90 seconds remaining, next Larry announced. On the screen, they watched as more of humanity's story flowed outward to the waiting assembly. It wasn't just data. It was the full spectrum of human experience. The laughter of children, the power of music, the quest for knowledge, the capacity for love and sacrifice, the constant striving to be better. 60 seconds, next Larry counted down. The door shuddered as something heavy slammed against it. The barricade would not hold for long. 30 seconds. John took Samantha's hand. Whatever happens next, we did our part. Earth knows nothing about this yet, but we spoke for humanity. Broadcast complete, Nexalari announced as the door burst open. Vecthar security forces flooded into the room, their human disguises flickering to reveal their true forms as they moved rapidly. John and Samantha raised their weapons, ready for their final stand. Then something unexpected happened. The Vecthar stopped. As one, they tilted their heads, receiving some communication inaudible to human ears. Nexlahri straightened, eyes blinking rapidly. The assembly has received your message. They are responding. The facility fell silent. Even the distant sounds of battle ceased. On the main screen, new data appeared. A response from the assembly ship in orbit. What does it say? Samantha asked. They request direct communication, Nexalari translated, with the humans who sent the message. Before they could respond, A new sensation filled the room, a shimmering in the air, a feeling of vast attention, focused downward. The assembly was reaching out directly. What happened next was unlike anything they had experienced. Images, emotions, and concepts flowed into their minds. It wasn't words exactly, but they understood. The assembly had heard Earth's whisper and was responding with its own voice, or rather voices. 12 different species, 12 different perspectives. The Loxari, beings of pure empathy, shared their awe at the emotional depth of humanity. The Gentoo, warriors who valued honor above all, expressed outrage at the Vekthar's deception. The ancient Duraxians, who had watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia, recognized in humans a rare potential for growth. Most surprising was the response from the Cravashi, a species that had nearly destroyed itself through warfare before finding a better path. They saw in humanity a reflection of their own past, and a chance for both species to learn from each other. The assembly rejects the Vekthar assessment, Nexlari translated aloud, voice filled with surprise. They call for direct, open, contact with Earth. They wish to know humans better before any judgment is made. The security forces withdrew, confused by the unexpected command from their superiors. In orbit, the assembly ship was already sending signals to human satellites, the first step toward open communication. 3 days later, John and Samantha stood with other resistance members on a hillside near their base. The news had spread worldwide. Humanity was not alone in the universe. The Vekthar's silent invasion had been exposed, their leadership recalled by the assembly for violating first contact protocols. In the evening sky, ships from a dozen worlds were visible as bright points of light. They had come not as conquerors or judges, but as neighbors introducing themselves properly for the first time. What happens now? Samantha asked, looking up at the stars that suddenly seemed much closer. We learn from each other, John said. We join something bigger than ourselves. He thought about everyone who had sacrificed to make this moment possible. Laura, Eric, and many others whose names would never be known to the world they had saved. Their whisper had grown into a voice that had sent shivers across the stars. And now, the universe was answering back.